Hey, everybody. Welcome to the SOS Small Business Success Podcast, where we're all about building brands that survive while developing people, you, to survive. So appreciate you being here. As you know, I'm your host, Bonnie Bonadeo, and each and every week we talk about a different topic under the SOS strategy. And the SOS strategy is really looking at key areas that any business, but we're focusing on small businesses, require in order to be successful. And those 5 key strategies are sales, operations, mindset, marketing, and education. Now, in each of those categories is a plethora of other subcategories in order to focus on. So we kind of dive into each of those with a little bit of a different flair here. And sometimes you'll notice that they cross over, like sales and marketing has a complete crossover. Mindset can override any one of these topics and either get you on a path of success or on a path of failure. Education is an element of sales, and education is an element of marketing. So there's a lot of a crossover in here. The category that I think has more specifics to it in some cases is always the operations category, which really looks at all of your systems. So we're going to be tapping into sales today, but we're also going to be touching slightly on operations as well. So our title today is Captain Obvious. Now, I'm sure you've all seen the commercials, Captain Obvious, and for some travel company. I don't even know what the travel company is, but they talk about Captain Obvious all the time. And the truth is that being a captain and being a leader means that you have to be so overt in your leadership strategies that it's obvious. And I'll bet a good portion of the leadership strategies and systems and structure set up by captains and leaders in organizations is not as obvious as you think. It's not as obvious as you think. So clearly, as leaders, we need to understand what our team does not understand, okay? Because there's a huge black hole between expectations being communicated and expectations being done and completed in there. And we need to bridge that gap in this big black hole from knowing to understanding to applying, because you could state it, but maybe they don't understand exactly what it means. And even then explaining it, they might understand the concept of it, but not know how to apply it. So as leaders, we have to be able to go from, communicating it effectively, from knowing, understanding, and applying. So the truth is that being obvious is quite a myth. There is nothing obvious about leadership. It's a constant, repetitive approach to guiding people to be their best. Okay, so obviously today I'm going to share with you some 5 leadership lessons for you to be more obvious in your leadership style, because we need to see that there's a sense of urgency in this, that if we're not creating clear and concise communications, we're going to have people that are uncertain of what they're doing, uncertain of what they're trying to accomplish, uncertain of how they're doing it. And in some industries, not doing it right can make everything fail. So, in the beauty industry, not being able to, process a color appropriately, mix a color formula appropriately can have disastrous results. In a restaurant, not having systems to be able to how food is going to be delivered and it comes to you cold, or not cooked the way that you desired, is disastrous results. So any business, if you look at it from a small point of view, if you don't have clear and concise communications of how things should be delivered, and how things should go, what systems you have in place, then your leadership is not as obvious as you think. So let's start with our first lesson in obvious leadership here. Obvious lesson number 1 is to really be honest as a leader. So think about it from a standpoint, if your ship is going down or there's an unexpected storm, your crew would know what to do, right? Like, they're prepared and trained that if the ship has a hole in it, a leak in it, how to be able to fix that to stay on sea, or how to be able to get that boat back to land so that it can be fixed appropriately. If there's a storm coming, what they need to do, batten down the hatches, prepare for the storm, anything like that. Are they prepared? And I would think that if you are a captain of a ship, then these are things that would be non-negotiables. They would need to know all of this. Now, there's always some unexpected things that can happen, and there's always some variables in the experience level of your crew, of your team. And you have to take that into consideration. So not only should you be the leader providing clear and concise directives, but there should also be some backup leaders that can guide some of these newer people, these more green employees and crew members, to be able to get the results that you need, get them in action and having them get the results that are needed in order to survive. Because this is what it's all coming down to, you guys, is survival. Being in business as a small business owner is certainly a survival mode approach right now. And, eventually I think all of us want to get back to that thriving mode, but we have new ways that we're going to have to be doing this. And one of them is to really make sure that you're selling high level of communication. Okay. So if sales are not coming in your business, if new clients are not coming back, if retail's not being sold, if people have stopped coming to your business to purchase your products or your services, you have a plan of systems in place, right, to be able to nurture them back, to be able to incentivize them back. You have to be able to always think sales is a nonstop, constant, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day approach. And the clearer you are in your sales approach, the more defined that messaging is, the more opportunities that people will attract to it. So, did you know that uncommunicated expectations breed apathy? So if it's just kind of like, oh, well, just come to work and do your thing and then go home type of thing. But if people are not sure of exactly what their expectations are or how they can achieve a greater sense of fulfillment, how they can achieve raises, how they can achieve promotions, if they don't know these things, then you start breeding a culture of apathy. And it becomes very disingenuous, and it starts to feel like calculated communications are taking place, and that does nothing but build mistrust in there. Okay. Now, you could say that you're the leader, and it's like, well, I don't want to be too hands-on, or I don't want to be, a overbearing leader type of thing. But the truth is you have to find that balance. Everybody has that particular balance to be able to do that. And the idea behind that, creating that balance, is, looking at your team as a whole, and then looking at your team as a group of individuals. Because some people might need a little bit more support than others. Some people might be quick learners. Other people might need, more of a hands-on approach, or a little bit more time to be able to adjust to the type of work that they're doing, or the expectations that you have of the work that needs to be done. And what you never want is a subculture forming that has a stronger leadership style than what you're offering. And this happens all the time. It's how fast. It's like if you say, can one person change a culture for the good? Yes. Can one person change the culture for the bad? And the answer is still yes. So you have to be the leader that is really guiding people to the success that you're hoping for and that you're aiming for. Because what you don't want is a subculture of leadership derailing you from what you're trying to do, or trying to sink your ship here. Okay, let's go to obvious lesson number 2. Be clear. Now, I can't emphasize this one enough, because from a marketing and branding standpoint, clarity is always going to be the winning formula, always. So if your ship is going down or an unexpected storm comes, would your crew know what to do? And if not, are you prepared to provide concise directives? So if you have a crew that's really unsure of what to do in a crisis situation, are you prepared to provide really concise directives of what they need to do? Or are you potentially a leader that goes into panic mode? And we'll talk about that in our next session as well, when we're talking about operations and mindset. Mindset's going to be a good one for that. And if they're not clear on why they are not growing, and what they'll do is they'll blame you and leave. So if they're unclear of what it takes to grow, they're going to blame you and leave. They're always going to think that the grass is going to be greener on the other side. But if you continue to nurture and provide directions and directives to these people so that they're always constantly feeling as though they're growing, learning, expanding, getting promoted, getting the ability to make more money, as they should, right? They want a captain that leads them to success, not to crisis. They want a captain that leads them to success, not crisis. And needless ambiguity and confusion will break down that culture overnight. Okay, so you got to be clear, you got to be concise. Lesson number 2. Lesson number 3 is you got to take ownership. And this seems like a very obvious lesson, but there's a lot of times that we don't want to be wrong. We will do anything in our power to not admit that we're wrong. And at the same time, I'm not suggesting as a leader that you just bow down and admit you're wrong all the time. And there's this really interesting approach to a communication style. Now, this can be used with your clients. This can be used with your team. This can be used whether you're leading up or or it's in leading down. Any of these situations, leading across, all of it. Okay. And it's, instead of saying, I'm sorry, saying, thanks for your compassion. Thanks for your understanding. Let's say that you are not getting back to somebody in a timely manner. Instead of saying, sorry, I've been delayed, or I didn't do this, just say, thanks for your patience. Okay, so convert the I'm sorry into thank you. So you could definitely be a leader that takes ownership and just say, thanks for your understanding, everybody. I know that we have a situation here that needs to be dealt with, and I intend to deal with it immediately, and I appreciate your support on this, okay? That's taking ownership as a leader. So if the ship's going down or an unexpected storm happens, would your crew know what to do? See, no one plans to fail others, but unfortunately, there are leaders that don't know how to plan for success. They haven't prepared their team well enough to be able to have that successful result. And, when I got certified as an emotional intelligence coach, there was a survey that they did with 10,000 employees in high-level companies, okay, and, Fortune 500 companies. And the number one request was that they wanted their leaders to provide them more direction. So they felt like they were somewhat autonomous in their positions. And although autonomy sounds like a very free and idyllic approach in leadership today, most of them found that what they needed was a little bit more leader time, a little bit more directive time, and a little bit more follow-up with their leaders, with their managers, with the people that were supposed to be guiding them. So it's okay to take that time and that effort to be able to do that. And, to take ownership also means don't minimize that there's an issue right now. Don't make excuses or hide from it. Don't blame others for this situation, okay? At this point, if you have a situation or a crisis that's going on, or something that's not in alignment with what you want your business to be or look like or prosper to, don't be blaming others, because none of that matters. The only thing that matters is that the situation at hand needs to be dealt with, and you are the leader that has to deal with it. So you got to own it and you got to fix it right then and there, okay? Right then and there. None of this blame game here. All right, obvious lesson number 4. You have to exude confidence. Now, you've probably all heard the expression, fake it till you make it. Well, the new expression is face it until you make it, okay? So if the ship's going down and an unexpected storm comes, does your crew know what to do? Well, maybe you're not quite sure. Maybe you've never had this experience before, and you've been trained from a book standpoint. You've been trained from a conceptual standpoint, but you've never really been in this situation live and in person before. So, this is that time as that leader that you have to exude confidence and face it until you make it. Okay. The best leaders and captains know how to consult in conversations. Do you know how to consult? Okay. There is a difference between leading people, providing them expectations. There is also a difference between consulting with people and coaching people. Now, I'm a big proponent of being able to coach your staff, but you're coaching your staff as a regular and ongoing system to growth management. Okay. You're consulting your staff on a regular and ongoing basis as kind of a check-in, making sure they're good, making sure they don't have too much on their plate, making sure they're comfortable with everything that's going on, that type of thing. So you're consulting with them on that opportunity. So know the difference between really expectations, consulting, and coaching. Okay. Coaching would be if you're looking at performance or behavior issues. Consulting is kind of a regular and ongoing check-in. Okay. And expectations are something that you've already set up, and now you need to monitor, guide, review, and keep them front of house, in a sense, as to what your expectations are and your deliverables are and your timelines are for those things to be getting done, for those results to be happening. So even if you don't have all the answers as a leader, you must have the confidence to be aware, be present, and truly expose the problems. Okay. Don't hide from the problems. Don't, hide in your basement. No hiding in any basements here with your issues. You have to be able to step up, be that leader, and understand that there is a problem or a crisis at play. Okay. Now let's go to obvious lesson number 5. And lastly is be the face and voice of calm composure. Now, I wrote this one here with with a giggle just like that, because a lot of times when people are in crisis, or a lot of times depending on our personalities, depending on our fear response, which we'll talk about when we get to mindset in a couple weeks, calm composure in some cases could just feel really uncomfortable for leaders that are truly have no fear of leading. Okay. So if the ship's going down or an unexpected storm comes your way, would your crew know what to do? And could you be calm in composure? All right. So Jeff and I, my fiance, he and I went, we have a boat, and it was the first time that we were on it ourselves without the crew. Okay. And I wasn't 100% confident because I don't have a lot of experience. He has a lot more experience and was very confident, although we did run into a situation where one of the engines didn't work. And this is a catamaran. This is a double hull boat. So when you have one engine going out, it's like you're just going in circles. Okay. So there's a way to be able to manage that. This is an experience he's never had before. It's certainly an experience I never had before. And I can tell you that calm composure kind of went right out the window with this. And we tried very hard to look at solutions that we could do with. And I got to tell you, when this happens and your fear response goes up, you go into a hijack mode. And that hijack mode a lot of times has you repeating the same mistakes over and over again, instead of logically being able to think of what could be done. We didn't handle it very well. We didn't support each other very well. We learned some great lessons on it. And even today, that was a year ago, even today, we look back on it and we're still coming up with solutions that would have been better than what we came up with then. It's like, why didn't we think about doing this? And it's like, I have no idea, because it was one of those unexpected crises. It was, the wind was picking up, the sun was going down. We needed to make sure that the boat was moored, and we couldn't just be floating around all night, trying not to hit land at this point. So, but there were so many opportunities that we could have done had we been able to kind of have that calm composure with each other and support each other. And in his case, since he was the captain of the boat, for me to be able to take his lead graciously, and for me as co-captain of the boat to be able to follow the leader's guidance and advice and not try to be the leader in situations that I didn't know any more information with. Lessons learned, great experience, Don't want that to happen to anybody else. But stuff like this happens all the time. We go into crisis mode all the time. And how calm are you as a leader? How prepared are you to just, come up with the right solutions to do with it? This is the truth of emotional intelligence with a heaping of empathy. Okay. Understanding the situation that you're in, but also trusting the people that you're in and allowing, the potential of the way that we process things, the way that we try to resolve things, to be present, to listen without judgment, to stay in the conversation a little bit longer than you think is necessary before adding your 2 cents or interrupting in a case, allowing it to resolve, allowing them to get to some resolution, and then asking more questions of the situation that leads to solutions. So we're real quick as human beings. We are really good at wanting to solve problems, and we're really good at throwing 1,000 ideas out of how to solve the problem. As leaders, we have to be really good at asking questions that allow them to resolve the issues themselves, and to be patient with that resolution that they might be experiencing and how they're managing their own responses, their own fear responses. Is it calm composure, or is it being out of control? Okay. Leading your ship in a new day every day, because every day something's going to happen. Every day there's going to be something that comes up. And here's the truth, you guys. Here's how I want to sum up all these ideas. Great leaders don't have the answers. They have the questions. Okay. So if you are patient, you can have that calm composure. You really understand that there is, and the ability to be able to be honest and to be able to be clear and concise, then the solutions will naturally come to the top. But you can't come to great solutions if you're in a fear response, or if you're in, a hijack situation where, you can't think straight. Okay. You want to be able to get to that place to think straight, and actually being in question mode is the greatest way to be able to kind of like get your brain back into a space of being able to solve the problem in the most logical way. Ask yourself questions. Okay. So if you're a leader and you need to ask yourself questions, or ask questions of your team if you're looking for some things to be resolved as well. But remember, great leaders don't have the answers. They have the questions. All right, you guys, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it. So listen, I don't know if you guys know, but I wrote a book called Expert and Influencers, the Leadership Volume. And it's a collaborative book with some other fantastic leaders and authors in here. And it's amazing. It's been one of my favorite books that I've been able to be a part of. And my chapter in there is called The Curious Leader. And I talk a little bit about this ability to ask questions in a way that helps to resolve things faster. So if you're interested in the book, you can go to my store, bonniebonadeo.com store. It's at bonniebonadeo.com store, and click on Experts and Influencers, the Leadership Edition. It's only $20, and I'm not going to charge you shipping. It's just going to be $20, and I'm going to pop it in the mail to you and get it to you. So Expert and Influencers, the Leadership Edition. You can go to my store, bonniebonadeo.com store. All right, you guys, I know that we're still working in this space as we've started out 2021. To be able to look at hiring people. And I still have the SOS hiring course on special for $47 right now. So take advantage of this, okay? And you can go to soshiringcourse.com to be able to buy this course. It's almost 5 hours of content and workbooks included of what you need to do to get on the path of being able to really hire some amazing people. And it really starts with you. It incorporates all of what we're talking about here in the SOS: sales, operation, mindset, marketing, and education. So I hope you take advantage of that. And that we can all start getting into hiring mode, and we can get our businesses back to a thriving sensation. So, all right, you guys, thanks for joining me at the SOS Salon Coaching and Podcast today, where we're building brands that survive while developing people to thrive. We'll see you next week.